Hello there and welcome back to the Plymouth Life Centre as we bring you live coverage of the Devon Business Show 2025, brought to you by the Devon Chamber of Commerce. Yes, indeed, it's another year and I've got a very special panel with you now. I don't know if we need to start calling you Your Majesty. I'm very, very, very pleased to introduce to you the new CEO of the Devon Chamber of Commerce, Helen Wild-Archibald. Thank you for joining us. Hello there.
Hello, thank you.
We're going to be finding out a lot about you, I'm sure, over the next few days. In this panel, we're going to be talking to you about your chamber, what it means for you today, and what we're looking forward to in the future. We've also got Claire Baker, who's wearing the bright pink tabard. Nice of you to make an effort there, Claire.
Thank you.
I take it this outfit isn't by choice.
Actually, I love high-vis.
Do you?
I do, genuinely.
I'm just in high-vis, you can get away with anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Apparently you can walk into any building with enough confidence in high-vis.
This is true. We'll test that later. And down at the end, we've also got Ronnie Carter. Hello, Ronnie.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hello, looking lovely. So Ronnie manages our LSIP and various special projects that we undertake at the Devon Chamber of Commerce. So, welcome to the team then, Helen.
Thank you.
This is the first time having you on a podcast, isn't it?
It is, yes.
I promise to go gentle, okay? I promise to go gentle. So, I think we need to start, of course, by welcoming you to the team, but also by saying, why on earth did you want to be our CEO?
Oh, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, actually. The last couple of roles I've been in, I've been involved in profit and purpose-led businesses rather than just profit. And what it's taught me is the benefit of working in a sort of positive relationship and a virtuous circle where you put everything around you to make things work. And it's such a nicer environment to work in when you're doing those things. I'm also from the southwest. I grew up down here. And as a young woman, there wasn't any jobs, so I went away. And I've come back. I'm part of the diaspora of people who came and come back because we all love it here so much. So from my perspective, I think it's really that what the Chamber stands for is probably very close to what I stand for, both in terms of place, being in the southwest, but also its aims and objectives. And I think we are having a moment, really, with all the investment coming into Plymouth and all the good stuff going on in Exeter and Tor Bay and the north of the county, where it's a real opportunity to make Devon shine, and I want to be part of that.
Now, being a CEO is by nature a very challenging role. It's almost 24/7 for a lot of people who run businesses at CEO level. Yours has the extra challenge in that you have to communicate and you have to work with businesses across so many different sectors, and not only that, so many different sizes. Everything from the one-person organisation up to the multinational conglomerate, don't you? Mm-hmm. How do you achieve that?
I think it's a case of listen to what they tell you about their business and their business needs, and actually do your research and understand those companies. And actually, there is always common threads in business. Nobody comes to work to do a bad job. So the one thing which draws us all together is we all want to do a good job. And once you understand that, you can find things which are commonality across those pieces, whether it's looking at cash flow with small businesses, whether it's lobbying for larger businesses, whether it's the skills gap that, LSIPs plays into so well. All of that is really important. But actually, as a business owner or a CEO, you are very much on your own. So things like the Chamber are really good in terms of networking to help you actually discuss some of those issues with your peer group. And have that in a safe environment. And I think that's really how you bring it all together.
I think that's definitely one of the key bonuses of being part of your local Chamber of Commerce, and that it opens up the opportunities for networking on a more working scale. In that, there are lots of organisations where networking is all they do, and you don't necessarily see the outcomes of that networking. Yeah. It doesn't actually come to some kind of conclusion, some kind of execution of something, a launch of something, or actually tapping into policy making. Chambers kind of fill in that gap. They're the real link between business and the policymakers up there up in the tower.
Absolutely. So if you do the networking, you pick up the themes, you can then get the information together and make that clear, and you can then lobby. And lobbying is something that we need to do for Devon, because our voice sometimes is overlooked because we're quite a diverse county. We're a very big county. We're the third largest geographical county in the UK. And, that actually presents some quite serious challenges in terms of getting messages out which are clear enough for the politicians to grasp. They're busy people. You need 3 messages for them. You need to land them every time. So I think what this allows us to do is to pull together that agenda, get the information behind it, the fact-based information, lobby for what we need, and whether that's lobbying with Parliament or whether it's international trade, it just to make sure that we're putting ourselves on the foot in terms of those pieces, and being able to have a say in some of the pieces that are being made in terms of legislation and regulation much earlier on, so we're not done to, but we actually are having some say in how those things take place.
Let's bring in Claire. Claire, now we've spoken about inputting into policy, but that's only just a very small part of chamber life and being part of the chamber family. We used to say, my chamber family a lot. It really is, a family of everyone that works and everyone that's a member and all their colleagues and acquaintances and team members as well.
Absolutely, and as Helen said, it really is about people and about relationships. The loneliness piece is real. Being able to be in a space where other people understand where you are on your journey. They might be further ahead, they might be further behind, but either way, you get a sense of belonging, you get a sense of comradeship, and you get tips and ideas, and it helps empower you in your business and also you as a person. I've had conversations today with people where they've come up and I've seen people talking that I didn't know knew each other and said, well, you introduced us and now this is happening. And that's where you really get the, days like today where you see it in action.
Yes.
A lot of the time you don't get to see it quite in the same way as you do in this room today. It really brings it home to you what actually can be achieved through the work of the chamber.
There really is an electricity in this room today. I think it's one of the most buzzing trade shows we've run this year. It's really kind of worked for us very, very well. Ronnie, you run LSIP, which is one of many different projects that the Chamber of Commerce undertakes for its members. It kind of provides a link between researching the needs and of what businesses want from the educational sector, but it's also been deployed by, is it government that's actually rolled out the LSIP concept? So we're kind of like being an important conduit, like bridging the gap between policymakers and business owners, and you're actually making it happen in a very important way.
Oh, very much so. We are one of the 38 employer representative body across the nation.
Just come a little bit closer to your microphone. There we go.
Sorry.
Just pretend you're doing karaoke. That's normally what I do.
We are one of the 38 employer representative body nationally to lead on the LSIP. So we are really privileged to be able to kind of put the voices of the business, collate that and make it at the heart, put it at the heart of skills development and curriculum planning. Is really imperative that we not only kind of translate some of the really fragmented, really complex educational landscape to the businesses and really explain what's available to them in terms of investments or upskilling, reskilling, retention as well, supporting retentions, but supporting also the business continuity and, but also working the other way, like Helen said and like Claire said, it's making those connections, is the small things that really make a difference, that actually happening at the local level that make the national difference.
Do you find that some organisations you've spoken to up until now, they've felt that their voice hasn't been heard on this and probably many other topics?
I think it's kind of, you don't know what you don't know. So sometimes it's just making sure that their eyes are open a little bit wider, or they absolutely aware of everything that they're entitled to as well. Businesses are struggling. It's quite challenging landscape for them at the moment. So to be able to then go in and really depict what's needed within their own business in terms of skills, of development, and where to find that support, they really need to come to the chamber and kind of find out through the LSIP.
This is a really good, obviously the LSIP is quite public facing because you're out there talking to business owners. You're taking that information, you're running a massive research project behind the scenes. I'm going to bring Helen in here. There's a lot of things that happen in chambers behind the scenes on behalf of its members that maybe its membership network don't even know is going on.
Yeah, I think that's probably very true, and that's part of the service. So, what we do spend a lot of time do is gathering information. And if you're running a small business in particular, you don't have necessarily the means of gathering quite a lot of information, which is on regulation, politics, legislation, what does the budget mean for me, etc. And actually providing all that information and putting it together into something which is accessible is a big part of what we do. It's also putting people together, the connections, and actually researching those. So whatever program of events we run, has a meaningful piece in terms of how that looks. And if we are going to lobby, then you have to do it from a fact base, so you need to have proper research done for that as well. So there's an awful lot of work. I mean, we also have the trade piece that we do, the international trade piece as well as the work that Ronnie's working on. And, you know, we intend to do more of that because it adds value to our members and it adds value to Devon. We also have a place-based approach, and this is really important in the era of AI. It's really important to recognise that within Devon, we are diverse. We have Plymouth, we have Exeter, we have Torbay, we have East Devon, North Devon, Dartmoor, West Devon. They're very different areas. So also a lot of that is understanding exactly what each of those areas need. You know, for instance, Torbay has this fantastic tech cluster opportunity with photonics. And I'm not sure, 5 years ago, I don't know what photonics was. But that's something, actually, as a chamber, we need to get behind and really, really support. Very, very different to what's going in East Devon, or alternatively in Plymouth itself or Exeter. So having that place-based approach where you have the benefit of the overview of Devon, and then making sure that each of the agendas of each of those places and each of the businesses in those places is served as our membership, it does take quite a lot of planning.
And also, Claire, the types of businesses that we have as membership is very varied. I mean, everything from everywhere, as I've said earlier, every size. I'm going to sound like Donald Trump in a minute. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? It is a beautiful thing to have so many businesses of different backgrounds coming together under the banner of the chamber.
I'm going to ignore the fact that you said Donald Trump and carry on with the conversation. Yes, I always say that is the magic of the chamber, the fact that we do have every size and every sector of business, and we're reasonably unique. We are unique in that, particularly when you add in the support that we have with trade and also our connectivity up to central government and overseas with British Chambers of Commerce overseas. So the ways that people are able to engage and get value by looking outside of their sector or their immediate geography, I wish I could find a way of quantifying it, but there's so many times that people have come back and so many more that they haven't and said this has happened as a result of your Pitch Procure event, This has happened as a result of listening to your podcast, this has happened because I met this person at a coffee in the city. And it's because of that amazing infrastructure and ecosystem, and the fact that we've got creatives mixing with the manufacturing sector, that we've got the hospitality sector mixing with the professional services sector. Well, you know this from the...
Yeah, absolutely. And also what we forget, well, we don't forget because obviously we're in chamber world, but a lot of businesses forget that the supply chain can be very diverse and very complex. And to have a little bit of understanding of the other organisations that help support the supply chain can sometimes open up new opportunities, because you'll see, that for us, for example, that business who works in whatever it is aren't quite communicating with each other, or they're finding it hard to communicate what they do. We can step in as a creative company and help with that. And furthermore, we were laughing just a few moments ago. It's important to touch on the fact that I think Devon Chambers up for having fun. Yeah. There's no point in you spending most of your life working in business and not enjoying the process of doing so. And it's also a very inclusive environment, isn't it, Claire?
We've worked really, really hard over the last few years to just make sure that we don't... So people either don't know what a chamber is, or they think it's something of the past. So it's quite stuffy, it's quite old-fashioned, it's a lot of people in suits. It's largely just one sector, and that absolutely is not what we are. And so everything that we do, all the ways that we communicate, all the different types of events that we put on, the different times of day that we do things, the different ways that we interact, the different communities that we go into are all about just making it warm, making it feel like a safe space to be, making people feel like they belong wherever they're from, whatever sector they're from, whatever their backgrounds, there is a place for them, and we can help.
Helen, Claire makes a very important point, but I want to ask if you could kindly expand on that by explaining how do chambers continue to remain relevant? Because things are changing, so it's a fast-changing landscape. Every panellist that I've had before has spoken, they said, the business landscape isn't the same as it was last year. Our industry isn't behaving and acting in the tools, the skills. It's like chasing a moving target. And somehow chambers have to be ahead of that target
Yep.
because they're striving to work on behalf of their membership. So how do you do it?
Well, I think this is where we're very lucky because we're accredited. So the British Chamber of Commerce do quite a lot of strategic work, and they come up with pillars where they feel businesses are going to be most impacted. And they are general pillars, but you can then tease them apart for various sectors and understand how that's going. I mean, also referencing the industrial strategy, there's a lot of good stuff at local government level as well, and also all the university research. So pulling that together, you can work out what the key themes and trends are. And, actually the future of work is changing, which means the future of businesses is changing. That's being driven by global implications and political implications, which whilst we can't do anything about, we need to be aware of so we can play them. It's about technology and there's adoption rates and how that works across businesses. It's about skills and people and how those work and how products and services are changing. And it's about that social demographic around that and how things are influencing the way that people buy, sell, what they want to see, etc., and how those things work together. But we use quite a lot of that BCC information to inform some of the decisions about what we're going to put together in terms of content. And then, content is king at the end of the day. And actually, is that not one of the joys of our job, which is, what is the next thing? What's the next thing? So I've heard a lot of discussion today about AI. Actually, I think quantum computing is probably going to be next year's conversation at some point towards the back end. And there are things around that which actually are quite interesting in terms of how it's provisioned, security, so defence, but also some elements around power, which actually with all the plans for Celtic Sea and everything else around the area can be really, really interesting. So all the time it's what's happening now, what we learnt from the past and one eye to the future, and how do we make sure the ones which we think are most relevant are brought to people's attention.
You mentioned skills. Trying to ensure that businesses of tomorrow have the skills that they need. In fact, businesses of today have access to the skills that they need is another fast-moving target because you need to train people. So I'm going to bring Ronnie in here. How is LSIP working to solve that issue and trying to somehow encourage things like the academic plan to change fast enough so that it can cater for that?
We are definitely being bold and brave in that space. We're definitely making sure that the businesses are very much at the table during the conversations, but are very much aware of the global trends that are happening and also the national trends and the investments that are happening in another regions. So exemplifying the excellence, pockets of excellence that are already happening, that it's already there and make that strides and bringing that to Devon, driving that kind of investment and the support for the businesses is something that we do best. And you know what? We spoke this morning at the breakfast, which was absolutely fantastic event. We cannot do it alone. There is a power in collaboration, and there is so much already available on the market for the businesses. We just need to make sure that it's A, stays relevant, B, it's kind of responsive and agile, and C, that actually has that one eye on what's next. Because it's forever changing. 40% of the skills that we need now are going to be obsolete within the next 3 to 5 years. So what we're doing to kind of adapt. And businesses don't need to revolutionize. They don't need to do much, but give maybe 1 hour a week into mentoring or coaching or kind of even reflecting on their own journey and how they got there to kind of bring in that next generations of the workforce on the journey with them.
Helen, do you agree? Obviously.
I do actually, yeah. I think the skills one is the big battle, and I think there needs to be some recognition that society is fragmenting and we need to be inclusive to everybody. So university isn't for everyone, okay? And university at 18 isn't for everybody. There are some fantastic apprenticeships taking place across the city in Plymouth and in Exeter and across the whole county. And I think actually it's the mix of what is the right thing and how you learn. The biggest thing I can see as a trend, which I think safeguards businesses, is if you get yourself into a mindset that you're going to have to carry out lifelong learning, then effectively the acceptance that you need to keep yourself fresh is the way to keep your business self fresh. I think it's quite possible that some of the youngsters coming to the workplace today will never have the opportunity to retire. I think they're always going to have to work in some form. I think we might have some people who are educated for leisure at some point. And I know statistically it's quite possible that the first child who lived to over 200 has already been born. So on that basis, how can the future of the working world be what it is today? How can businesses be what they are today? And that rate of change is really, really quick. So all of us need to have a lifelong learning approach. All of us have to accept we're probably going to have more than one career. There's no such thing as jobs for life. And also, I think some social accountability, that when you have people working for you, you help them to go on that lifelong journey of learning as well. Because as society fragments, some of the traditional bodies like the unions, etc., may not always be there. We may have to cater for the individual. And in doing that, we need to embrace diversity, all of those issues, and bring them in DEI and make things work for us in the workplace. And that's a modern workplace that people want to work in. So you get the right people on board, get the right skills, and you can start to put them forward. And the great thing about LSIP, what it does is it gives the employers the opportunity to input into the structure of what is being delivered, so we can actually get the right skills in the right place in the right times. And Ronnie's right, there is not one business who isn't going to be impacted in the next 12 to 18 months by some of the changes, particularly around technology. And on that basis, we've just all got to be a little bit more agile, and that means relying on each other a little bit more and helping each other out.
Yeah, absolutely, and indeed communicating with your chamber.
Yeah.
And in the balance of fairness, there are other business support organisations available. We're obviously the best one, but that's just my own personal opinion. Claire, we said the room here today is very electric. There's a great atmosphere. You speak to a lot of business owners. What's the current kind of feel for the business community at the moment? We've had a bit of a tough time, but are things looking positive moving forward, or do you think that tough time's going to continue? We're going to have to work hard at it.
That's a very good question. I think a lot of people at the moment are still waiting for the next budget. Mm-hmm. I think that's definitely high on business minds at the moment, is what that's going to mean. So there's still some quiet optimism, and certainly in some sectors have been faring extraordinarily well. Others, hospitality, have to highlight is really having a hard time at the moment. The winds in every direction have been against them. But there's a lot of sort of people sitting on their hands, I think, at the moment, and not really knowing what to do, and waiting for someone to go first, or waiting for some clear direction. And I am a real believer that actually I think we can create that ourselves, rather than waiting, as Helen says, for it to be done to us. And again, the more that we collaborate as businesses, not just in the county but beyond, like across the Southwest Peninsula, the more I think we can be setting that agenda ourselves, and pushing for what we know we need, rather than sitting and waiting for it.
Words of confidence there, Helen, but business owners are still quite nervous.
Of course they are, and they should be. I mean, at the end of the day, the start of the year, I think, was a shocker with the last budget, with the changes in NI, and also the changes in regulation and legislation around employment. I worked those through with Cornwall's Chamber of Commerce at the time, and worked out what the hit would be for most of the businesses. And it was substantial. And to Claire's point, if you're running a brewery or you're running a hospitality environment or business, you are going to be quite badly hit by that, because you're heavily reliant on labour. You just need time to catch up. Cash flow is king in small businesses, and that would have impacted cash flow without necessarily helping your profit line. So there was no way out of that. So you couldn't take anybody else on in all probability, but also your cash flow is being burnt through for no bigger return to the bottom line. Once you readapt to that, and this is the trick with business, you just readapt, then you can move forward. And I think we are starting to see some businesses doing that with the sectors which are taking off, particularly around defence. Manufacturing seems to be doing very well. It will take longer in others. It does take a bit longer to get those things going. So we've got to hope for a good budget.
Yes.
So that we can move
Fingers
forward.
crossed. Yeah, good luck with that one.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, we're apolitical, and we don't really critique politics in that way, but I think whoever is in power, we always get the same kind of thing. We always have to, critique it and challenge it, because that's what you have to do. And there's never a perfect budget for everyone at the end of the day. That's life. You just need to be agile and face it and work your way around it. This morning, somebody said that you did an electrifying. I've used that word twice now, I think. Opening to the show at the breakfast speech.
Oh, good.
And are you looking forward to doing more kind of public sort of stuff? Because it's a very unique kind of CEO role. Because not many CEOs have to like open things and speak in front of people and then get grabbed every 5 minutes saying, "Oh, can you just sit in front of that camera or behind that microphone and give us a quote about this, that, or the other?" And thinking on your feet. Is that a challenge you're looking forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. I love it. For me, the whole thing about this is how many people I'm going to meet and how many people I get to talk to and listen to. So yes, that's all part of the role, and I actually love doing that. I find it really fulfilling to spend time with people and get to know them and understand what their businesses do and chat with them about what's happening. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent, excellent. Well, brilliant. We're very much looking forward to having you as our new CEO. So Helen, Claire and Ronnie, thank you for joining us on this panel. We're going to have you back, I think, at the end of the show.
Absolutely.
When we
yes.
kind of reflect on how it's all gone, when people are, kind of taking down their stuff in the background and going home, and then we're here to the very last minute just to make sure we give you even live coverage of that. And with still plenty to come, we're going to be meeting members of the Creative Services Group. We're going to be talking about health and fitness and the important role that plays within running a business as well. This is from the Devon Chamber of Commerce, the Devon Business Show 2025.